Welcome, welcome. We'll call this part 2 of John chapter 15, talking about the true vine. The last little podcast was about every branch that does not bear fruit he takes away, and we kind of gave, I said we, but what I meant was me. I gave a new definition of fruit. Not really a new definition, but a new way to look at it, because we always fall back to our works. We talked about how looking for fruit, exactly identifying what fruit is, that was a big part. The other one was that word takes away. In the Greek, it means to lift up. You know, if you listen to that and got anything out of it, that it was so much more encouraging than probably like a typical interpretation where it was, do better or do more or there's consequences. So I didn't finish that verse, so I'm going to try to do that today. So I'll reread just to kind of get our heads wrapped around it, and talking about the time where Jesus was at the Last Supper. He was just with his friends. He knew he was going to knew that the cross was coming, knew he was going to die, and knew that his disciples would be going through a lot of probably emotional trauma, I guess is a good way to put it. But there was going to be a lot of pain that was experienced by Jesus as well as his followers. So on that night, he chose to have dinner with them, and basically in John 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, he opens up his heart and just shares as much as he can with his friends. Read a few verses, and I'll try to finish up verse 2 today. So this is John 15, verse 1. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vinedresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. So, yeah, we talked about, gave a new interpretation on takes away. So it's, every branch that is not bearing fruit, God is the one who actually goes around and lifts them up, which is exactly what we need when we're feeling down and out, and we are not full of joy and peace and patience and gentleness and kindness and self-control. When we're not in that zone or method of operation, then he's the one who comes along and he lifts you from that lower place, lifts you up to where he is. So that is a great one to tuck away, because that is how God operates. It's a very pivotal thing to know and to see that is how he operates, because I know that these I guess the new way of looking at this, it was so monumental in my life and very transforming, and until it was a struggle for me. I kept going back to, no, he's not looking to lift me up out of the dirt. He's looking to basically stomp me down into the dirt because I'm not doing well and my performance is not great. And until I got that sorted out in my mind, life was not very, very fun, because I just felt like I always had this presence, that you can't see, but it was something that I could feel. I always felt like I had this, it was this nagging voice of, oh, I can't believe you did that. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't be going here. You shouldn't be doing this. And it was so easy to push that away. Like, I didn't want to have anything to do with it, because it's like, I've got my own head for that. I don't need anybody else telling me how bad I am. So anyway, that's why I say it's very, very, it was very, very pivotal point in my life when I got how God operates, when I got that sorted out in my mind. And some of these verses are the ones that God used to really transform my life and show me who he was. He was not this, this nag in my head. It was that. I know it sounds bad, but that's basically how I had, I got to a point where that's what I believed about God, and so I wasn't looking to have such a great relationship with somebody who was constantly, critiquing my every move in a negative way. So anyway, all that, but here in verse 2 where he says that every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. And so this idea of pruning is something that we're kind of familiar with. But I've heard this passage, preached upon many times, and here's kind of what I've taken away from it, from what was spoken, is that there are things in our lives that God wants to get rid of, because those are the ones that are causing us to not be a fruitful Christian. And it's really painful when God comes around and he starts pulling these things out of our lives. It's things that we should not be doing and things that we should not be saying, and so that's kind of the typical interpretation that I've heard, and you can see how if you believe that way, that it's very easy. I mean, good grief, who does not have something in their life that is not up to the standard of perfection? Like that's so easy. And so it's like, man, all the time there's all these things that quote unquote God's pulling out of our lives, and it was like, I remember a certain minister saying, it's so painful. It's so painful when God prunes us, but it's for our own good. And anyway, like I said, when I finally, when God showed me who he really was and how gracious he really is, and how he actually operates, until I got that situated, man, I felt all that. I felt the pain. I felt that hovering presence of like wrath, I guess, like, I've screwed up again. But this idea of that pruning, it was like it was talked about as like God is really going to take these things out of my life, and it was this cutting away. Is like if you were, and this is what the minister said, if you were actually part of that branch, and God comes along and he sticks the pruning shears to you and shears off this branch, just like, oh geez, yeah, that's painful. That who wants to be there? But then I guess I started thinking about, well, hold up, like how is this a good thing? So here's the interpretation and the argument that I'm kind of against. It was, the interpretation is, if I am bearing fruit, God comes along and cuts it off so that I can bear more. Now, I guess probably before I said it that way, I guess many of us Christians, we would believe, oh yeah, God's taking and pruning things out of our lives, and it can be painful. But when you think about it along the lines is, like, if you're bearing fruit, if there is something fruitful in your life, he comes around and he takes that off so that you can bear more. It's like, well, logically, if there's if you just think about this logically, like if there's a vine and I go and I up to a branch and I take off the branch that has fruit on it, like there's not a chance for it to grow fruit again, right? I mean, that's what it is. Like, if you cut all the branches of the apple tree off, it's like, well, no, there's not gonna be any apples. It's like to me, it just didn't make any sense. And I know that a lot of times we think that, well, because it does say, I was like, yeah, God works in mysterious ways. Great. We get that, and it doesn't mean that that it has to be, irrational thoughts, have to be orchestrated by God. It's like, no. He can, it can be logical for him to think along these lines. God's not irrational, right? We don't really believe that, but somehow, and sometimes we do. It's like, and this, I think, is a perfect example of, like, yeah, if there's fruit in our lives, God comes around and snatches it off, so then all of a sudden magically we can have more. It's like, well, that doesn't line up. And so I struggled with it a little bit, because I could see, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, in that first part of the verse, if I'm not bearing fruit, he's taking me away. That was my, interpretation. I was like, he's going to take it away, so there's no possible chance for me to bear fruit. And then if I am bearing fruit, he's going to come along and cut that off. It's like, well, this is lose-lose. I give up. This is impossible. Why? Who signed up for this? And why is this the method? Because it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's not reasonable. There's no method. This is madness. And like, but I actually believe this. And so it was like when we believe wrong, we actually live wrong. And that we can talk about that for hours, but that really is true. And so, that's how God works, is he wants to correct our believing, right? That's why it's so important what we believe. And it's not so that we can live these perfect lives, because that's not going to happen. But the closer we are, and the more that God corrects our believing, it's a natural consequence to have correct actions if you have correct believing. Okay, this word, I guess last time, part 1, we talked about that word takes away. We went back to the Greek and we looked it up, and we found out that it doesn't mean take away. It means to lift up, and that was very monumental. And then, so now this word prune, like, well, what are you going to do with that? How does this fit? I get that he's going to lift us up. Okay, I can buy that, but then how do you do away with this cutting and this severing? That's our idea of prune. Okay, so let's go back to the Greek. We could go back and we could look it up, right? Because we got a concordance, and we have this ability. As amazing as it is, for us, it's like, okay, well, I actually know a Greek word now. We have access to this information that we should not have. But anyway, so if you go back and you look up that word prune, you'll find out that it is another Greek word called kathairo. And so last time we said that takes away was iro. That's the word that was translated, which actually means lift up. And then this word is kathairo. It has that iro in it. So if you look that word up, it means to cleanse. Okay? Now, when this was revealed to me, it's like, that is totally different. That's totally different than my idea of prune. Because my idea of prune is like how I've been, talking. It was this cutting away, getting rid of. And so when I found out it meant to cleanse, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, how does that happen? Like, what do you mean? If I'm bearing fruit, he's going to come around and cleanse it? We could think about that. Remember, and we talked about last time, like, what is fruit? We identified it as love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, kindness, and self-control, and whatever other ones I'm missing. But it's those good moral virtues. And so if there is some of that in our lives, like, he's going to come around and wash that, or he's going to cleanse that. It's like, how does that work? I mean, it's so much better word for me. It's like, oh yeah, well, that's great. I would love, that, if you're going to wash something, great. That's so much better than, cutting it away and removing it. So let's think about that. Like, why does this, quote unquote fruit, why does it need to be cleansed? Right? Because we're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. It's God's Spirit. We're the branches, and the life and the Spirit of Christ is moving through the vine, and we are that branch that is connected to the vine. And then at the end of the vine, we find this fruit. But if it comes from God, like, why does it need to be cleansed? Because that's what this word means. Prune means to cleanse in the Greek. So it's like, but why does that need to be cleansed? It's found its origin in Christ. Here's the interesting thing is that, even when we do have fruit, quote unquote fruit, even when we have, peace and patience, as it comes through our mortal bodies, did you know that it is everything, even all the good things that come from Christ, that he loves to express through our physical bodies, it has that contamination of sin because of who it came through. And to think about that, it's like that's why it needs to be washed and it needs to be cleansed. It's like, even you are in Christ, and you are saved, and you're redeemed, and all these great things, and you are connected, and you do have fruit. There is some actual fruit in your life. But guess what? Christ, God still comes around, and he still needs to wash away things that have been contaminated. here's the thing. It's like on a vineyard, they would actually wash these vines and cleanse away, contaminants that were on it. They would cleanse away, there's these little bugs that get on it and all different kind of funguses that grow, and I don't know all about it, but what they do is they wash this so that the fruit isn't hurt. There's still some fruit there, but they just remove the things that should not be there. So here's where I think the translators were trying to say is that idea of pruning. It does have the connotation of taking away, but it's not that taking away of the actual fruit or the branch. It's taking away the contaminants, taking away everything that is not the fruit. Does that make sense? So it's like this, maybe this will help. I don't know, but if I'm going to wash my hands, I'm going to cleanse my hands. You guys don't think, oh, he's going to go cut his hands off. You don't think that way. But did you know that idea of removal is embedded in that word? When I say I'm going to cleanse my hands or I'm going to wash my hands, what I'm doing is I'm washing away everything that is not my actual hand, like all the dirt and debris and contamination and all of that stuff. Sometimes, I guess, when we're talking about biblical things, we don't really stop and think about that. But that's exactly what God does, to us, is He washes away all of that stuff. He washes away everything that is not of Him. And it's a gentle, like if you could picture this, somebody washing a vine, with water and how they do it, it's like it is delicate. It's not this, we don't think about getting out the pruning shears and we kind of put that away. It's like, no, it's not that. And it's not this, such a powerful cleansing that, they have a fire hose out there. It's like, no, that's going to destroy everything. It's like, it's delicate. It's gentle. If you could picture somebody just washing grapes that are on a vine, you would have to be delicate. You have to be gentle. Because if you don't, you're gonna hurt the branches and you're gonna hurt that fruit. And this is how God works. He's very gentle. He is very delicate. And He loves to see that fruit, and He's washing away everything that is not, from His Spirit. This is Jesus so trying to encourage his friends on the night just before He's gonna die. He's like telling them, guys, listen, man, if there's not fruit in your life, God's going to come around and He's going to lift you up. He's going to pull you out of the dirt. He's going to lift you up so that you can bear fruit. You can get the sunlight and all the things that you need. And guess what? If there is fruit, there's probably going to be different types of contamination on it. But guess what? God's going to wash that away. He's going to cleanse it. And that's what that word prune means. It means to cleanse. He's going to wash it. He's the one who's going to cleanse it. It's not up to us to do all of those things, although many times we take hold of the wheel and we try to do this. It's like, that's why at the very beginning Jesus said, my Father is the vine dresser. This is His job. This is what He does. If you could ever get that, you could see how encouraging it really is. Because if you're not in a place of being, full of peace and self-control and joy and patience, God lifts you up. And then if you do have some patience and you've got some joy and all of that stuff, even mixed in, through our mortal bodies and through how it expresses through us, it still comes out. It's just not pure. It's not the pure thing. But guess what? That's okay, because God's going to wash away everything that's not of Him anyway. Wow, you can actually relax. That's what He's getting to His disciples. Like, well, just chill out, relax, because the vine is me, and God's the one who's taking care of us anyway, and we're connected. So hey guys, chill out. Like, this is a great thing. One more thing before, I know I'm getting a little lengthy again, but before I wrap up, how God cleanses the vine is another important thing, and I guess this will probably, we could do part 3, but how He cleanses the vine. Like, we went over the reason why He would do it, and first of all, we identified that prune meant to cleanse, and then we identified why He would cleanse it, and then now we're going to move, probably next time we'd move on to how He does it. How He does it is by His words. He washes us clean by His words, and that's exactly what that next verse says. He's like, guys, listen, and guess what? All of this cleansing that needs to go on, hey, you are clean by these words that I'm saying under you. And so as we listen to the true gospel, and as our eyes are being removed from focusing on us, and when we can see Jesus in his beauty and in his glory, when we change our eyes from looking at us and we look away and we're looking unto him, like that's how it takes place. That's how we are cleansed, because these words are telling us, stop trying to do it all yourself. Let go of the wheel. You relax, because the life doesn't come from you anyway. You're not the vine. And guess what? You're not the one who cleanses this vine. It's not up to you to bear all the fruit. It's up to the healthiness of the vine, and it's up to the vine dresser to make sure that this all comes together. So there you go. Be encouraged once again, and know how much God loves you and how delicate this is of how he cares for you so much that he would actually go through this process with you to encourage you and to lift you up and to cleanse you.